Warm welcome to this VikingGenetics webinar, where we will focus on hoof health. We expect it to take approximately 30 minutes from now, with 15 minutes presentation. My name is Lars Nielsen, and I'm head of the breeding department in VikingGenetics, and I will try to let you through the session here. After the short presentation here, there would be time to ask questions from each of you. And during the presentation here, please mute your microphones. I think that's the easiest way to hear what's going on. And as Claudio and Rina discussed, also to switch off the cameras during the session. Is that okay? Good. We are ready to start. Do you see the presentation, all of you? I can't hear when you're muted, but anyway, I expect it. So, focus in VikingGenetics, that's to create profitability to the farmers that use the semen doses from our company. And profitability can be created both by increasing the income, but also reducing the costs. And hoof health is one of the issues that if you improve it, it's somewhere where we can really decrease the costs in a dairy business. And it's no doubt that lameness in cow, that's one of the biggest challenges we see in the dairy industry. It's really an important topic related to reduced animal welfare, but also from a financial point of view, where lameness really matters when we look at the bottom line. When you have lame cows, the biggest problem is not costs related to medicine and the time we spend on the sick cows or lame cows. It's the related challenges or problems like decreased fertility, where we see here when we look at the cost picture that fertility is really going down. We see big impact related to involuntary culling, so the cows will not last as long as they should in milk production, and that's really a focus area in dairy industry for the moment. And also reduced production, where we all know that a lame cow and a cow with problems with the hoofs will not produce as expected, both because of that she is sick, but also because of lower feed intake. Many dairy farmers and also people related to industry, they would see hoof health as a pure management issue. But case is actually that, of course, the environmental impact is really big. But case is that even though we only have heritabilities between 2 and 6% of the most common hoof diseases, we are actually able to change the frequency of different hoof disorders due to breeding. And the important thing here is registrations. And everything you can registrate and monitor, you are actually able to change. And that's the same here. And as we have a genetic variation, we are actually able to move hoof health from a genetic point of view. And since 2003, we have done registrations of hoof trimming in the Nordic countries, started with paper versions in Sweden in 2003. It was running for some years until we 2011 got this electronic registration, and it was introduced in Denmark, but also in the other Nordic countries. And this change really changed the number of data available, and also made it possible for us to create the first hoof health index worldwide. And immediately after it was introduced, it was also introduced into our total merit index, NTM, that's evaluated by Nordic Cattle Genetic Evaluation Center. And here we see the change in frequency of annual records of registrations here related to hoof trimming. And as we see here today, when we come to 2016, we get more than 1 million hoof trimmer registrations into the system. And today we have more than 1 million records into our system. So the important thing when we discuss registration, that is, and to let dairy farmers do the registration, that is actually that it has an managerial impact. So it matters on the farm to do the registration and change their behavior and the way they act. And it also needs to be easy. And that's why we saw the really big increase in registrations in 2011 when we started with the electronic version. You see the version now on the screen here. It's a registration unit tested in the army, so it's not first time it touch a cow will be damaged. It's really a tough version here, and it's just one click per cow per disorder, so you can register it immediately whether it's severe or mild for each of the traits. So really it should be easy and used for managerial purpose, and that's the reason behind the success we have had in the registrations. So registration is the key word behind making a reliable index for hoof health. On the next slide, you see the 10 different hoof disorders that we are working with. They are grouped into 7 different subtraits. The first 3 ones are related to metabolic. The next 3 ones from digital and downwards, they are infectious diseases. And the last one, the corkscrew hoof, it's related to abnormalities in the hoof. As I said, the heritabilities for each of these disorders, they are at a level between 2 and 6%. We registrate the disorders in each of the first 3 lactations, and when we do the evaluation, the first lactation will have a weight on 50%, second on 30%, and the third lactation will be weight 20%. In a multi-trait, multi-lactation animal model, where we evaluate all the total here of 21 traits. Each of the traits are not weighted equal into the index we have. The sole hemorrhage, the heel horn erosion, the digital dermatitis, and the sole ulcer are the far highest weighted traits here due to the frequency and the cost related to an incidence of each of them. And when we calculate the index, it's with an average of 100, like the other Nordic traits we present, and with a standard deviation of 10. And the higher the animal rank, or the higher index, the better resistance does the animal have toward hoof diseases. And I forgot to say here that, as you can see on the screen, then the weights here, they are from the Holstein breeds. We have individual models for each of the 3 dairy breeds we work with: the Holstein, our Viking Red, and the Jersey breeds, due to different frequencies and economical impact in each of the breeds. Before the area of hoof health index here, we in the Nordic countries used, like most of the rest of the world, feet and legs as the indicator of a cow's ability to walk and stay in the herd related to feet and legs here. And in many countries where we still do not have the index available, it's still the best tool to use. But anyway, if we look at the cow's ability to walk. But as you see here, when we look at the correlation between feet and legs, the 5 different sub-traits in feet and legs, and the correlation to hoof health, it's quite low correlations. And the 2 traits with the highest correlation, the hock quality and the bone quality, they are actually Nordic traits and not in the interbull evaluation. So when we look at the rear leg side view, the rear leg rear view, and the foot angle, they are more or less not correlated to hoof health at all. So that shows if we want to improve hoof health and reduce lameness in cows, we need to go directly on the trait, as the correlation here is very low toward hoof health index. And the overall feet and leg index from the Nordic Evaluation Center here, it's 24%, so still a quite low correlation. When we take the next slide here, you see how hoof health index is correlated to different traits in our evaluation. And the good thing here is to see that the highest correlation we get, that's actually to longevity. So hoof health does have a really high impact on how long cows will last in your herds. And that's really related to profitability. And also really high correlated to NTM, our total merit index. So it is also once again show the big impact here on NTM on creating bottom line. Another thing here when we look at the correlation picture is that when we look at feet and legs index correlation to longevity, it's only 15%. So once again, if you want to breed for long-lasting cows, you should look at hoof health and not on feet and legs. It's a quite poor indicator to go for feet and legs. Much better to go for the hoof health directly, as that's the tool having impact on the lameness. And when we started in beginning with the cost-cutting cows, we know, of course, we need to have a certain income. We also need to have a good production, not only reducing the costs. But as you see here, we actually have a quite positive genetic trend for each of our 3 dairy programs. Holstein is the black one. We have red as the red one and Jersey as the yellow one. And all of them have a quite steep and positive genetic progress on production. And when we see the genetic trend for hoof health on the next slide, we can see that Holstein has had a really steep genetic progress during the time period from 2011, where we have had the hoof health index. We have high focus, it's high weighted in the NTM, but it also matters here, as you can see. Smaller changes in Viking red and Jersey. Reason is that it doesn't have the same high value in the NTM. Also due to less problems. So it shows that we get what we go for, and that's important here. In the next table here, you see a lot of numbers, and I will not go through each of them, but all of them. It doesn't make sense here, but you can do it as a self-study afterwards. But when we look at each of the traits that we have in the hoof health index, and look what do we get if we use a bull being 10 units superior to compared to average, or 20 units superior. We can really change a lot in the incidence of the different types of hoof disorders. And just to show that it's not only numbers, what do we get when we use alive bulls, or bulls that we can use? And here we have as an example our bull Clark, staying only 100 meters from me here, where I'm staying right now. Still alive. He's a bull with 6,000 milking daughters right now, and he has a hoof health index with 98% reliability today. And it's 130, so plus 3 standard deviation we can see on him compared to average level of hoof health. So it means that the daughters you get from Clark, you can expect more than 50% less incidences of digital dermatitis. You can expect 50% less sole ulcers, being a quite expensive disorder to have. And also you can see really big reduction in many of the other traits. So it really matters. And it's no doubt that you, by using this kind of genetics, can make big changes. And actually, this kind of information is backing up the story from the field. The grandsire of Clark, he was a bull called Curtis. He had more than 20,000 daughters, and from the field we got the information that they were really good in feet and legs because or in hoof health. The feet and legs was definitely not good, almost 1 standard deviation below average, but the cow were lasting really long. We didn't have any hoof health index, but the longevity was extremely good. And when we got the index here, he got the highest index ever among all Holstein bulls. And we see the same here with Clark. We do see a very low frequency of the different disorders out in field, and it has huge impact on the longevity of the daughters here. So by the end of the day, of course, to reduce lameness among the cows, to improve profitability due to lower incidence of lameness, management is a really important tool. Of course it is. But by using the right genetics and focus on it, when you choose bulls for AI, you can really also change the genetics and the frequency of the different disorders in your milking cows. And lower frequency of hoof health or of hoof diseases is really something that matter when we look at the bottom line, so will lead you on the right track to get your success. Thank you very much for listening so far here, and now there should be time for questions or clarifying stuff that I might not have told during this very short session. Thank you.
Thank you, Lars.
Any questions from any of you?
Lars, you hear me?
Yes, Claudio.
Well, I have a few questions, so
yes,
maybe too many.
Just come, Claudio.
Okay. You show one slide showing the difference of using a bull that is 110 and 120.
Yes.
So my question is, do you have same figures for bulls that are 80 or 90 on hoof health? So I am expecting that using a bull that is 90 will increase the number of problems.
You are totally right. We could do that and show the frequency compared to average, also in opposite direction.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's this one. So yes, we could do so.
Yeah, because no, not this one. Yeah, this one. Because I would be more impressed probably by showing the difference of using a bull that is 90 and 110.
Yeah.
So plus 10 and minus 10.
Yeah. Good
And
point.
that would be, in my opinion, that would be a clear warning of not to use or be really careful using a bull that is negative for such important index. It has to be a real special situation to use that kind of bull.
Yes, and it's risky business.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So that's a suggestion.
Yes, good point.
And another question, but I don't want to.
You can take another one here, and then we can see whether we have other people, and then you can come back.
Yeah.
So, but take another one here.
Oh, okay. Of course, at the beginning you say in 2003 you started collecting records.
Yeah.
So you got records from different hoof trimmers.
Yes.
Do they have pretty much the same amount of data collection? You know what I mean?
It's like today, of course, with the bigger herds we have today. You will the one with the registration terminals here. They are registering much more than the first one did in the very and early beginning. That's true. And actually also we see that the barns have changed. Many of the first registrations, they were done in tied up barns with different diseases, definitely much lower frequency of digital, among others, compared to loose housing systems. But we have done a lot here during the later years also to educate and inform the hoof trimmers how to standardize the way that they registrate. So it's not done total individual from trimmer to trimmer. So that has been a focus area.
Yeah. The last issue is about Canada, but I can keep it for later.
You can come back, and I think we should ask if somebody else also have questions. But I will remember you, Claudio.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, Marta. Hi, everyone. I'd like to ask some question about V8 Clark.
Yes.
It's a bull with a 130 hoof health index, right?
Yes.
What about the other index? How can we? I can say. I mean that if there is a bull with a 120 or 100 index, health hoof index, what does these numbers means to percent of less heel, less sole, and all of this?
Actually, we have a good page. Do you see my screen now?
Only you?
Only me?
Yeah, right now.
Okay, because here you have Clark. Can you see Clark? It's on from the Nordic cattle evaluation, the now search page, and we can send that. Here you have all the information, and here we have hoof health, and can see all the sub-indices for sole ulcer, sole hemorrhage, heel horn erosion, and so on, and a digital where he's really superior. So we can see which impact, how he is on each of the subtraits. And we can show up here, when we click here,
Yeah.
show phenotypes, we can see the impact, actually, effect on the daughters, on each of the traits, subtraits here. And there you can just select a bull with 90 or 80 or whatever, and see what is the impact on the frequency level compared to the population frequency.
And can I find this in your website?
We can send the link, but I think from our marketing persons, I think we have a link on our homepage to this page, actually, where it's available. It's a really good page if you are interested in seeing the impact on the different traits we are working with. Maybe one from marketing will say whether we have a link.
Yes, we actually have. If you go to VikingGenetics.com, in the start page, there is a link saying Nav Bull Search. It's on the left-hand side. There is first 5 blue buttons and then a Search Bull button. So under that is a Nav Bull Search.
Okay,
so
thank you very
anyway,
much.
all this information is available there, and you can do different search criterias in here and see the consequences from the different index levels.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Other questions? Please raise your voice if you have additional questions. Otherwise, Claudio, will you come back with your questions and then other persons can come back?
Okay. Maybe you know that Canada is starting their own hoof health index.
Yeah.
They are starting right now the data collection, and I was introduced to this issue about 1 month ago because there was an official presentation from CDN, Canadian Dairy Network, it was given in Italy,
Mm-hmm.
and they said about this.
Yeah.
So one good thing is Viking is ahead because everybody is following. So that's the good. Maybe it's too commercial consideration, but it's a confirmation that we are on the good side because the other top players in the dairy industry are following. So that's something that we should point out. But maybe it's more a distributor thing.
No, but anyway, you're totally right here, and I've also seen what's happening in Canada from CDN. And what we can see is that it's more or less exactly what we are doing they are starting with, but we have the 4 million registrations already, and that's a big advantage because the data is the most important factor in succeeding with a trait like hoof health here.
And the second thing about this, about Canada starting the hoof health index, the second important thing is that I was asking personally during this conference, I was asking if they would start all over the country, and they say no. They are asking to farmers who want to volunteer sustain the campaign of hoof health data collection. So some farmers and some hoof trimmers individual are volunteering for collecting the records.
Yeah.
And that is good, but it creates a little bit of bias in the data because the first ones that will collect data normally are the best management farms.
Yes.
So the first index that will be released will be a little bit affected by the fact that the first indication will come, the first collection will come from the best management farms. And when I was asking this to the conference, the Canadian Dairy Network, they say, yeah, it's true, but we have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And I understand. So we have to start somewhere. So we know that is not the best way to collect data in this way, but it's the only way we have to start.
Yeah.
So again, one thing that I want to point out in favor of Viking Genetics is, and you say that at the beginning, the system of data collection that has been tested and stressed through the years and gives Viking Index an advantage, a technical advantage that will probably never or very difficultly will be equalized by any other competitor so far in the industry.
Agree, and what we need to remember is that hopefully we are still able to get at least 1 million new records into the system each year. So we will continue to be ahead here, but of course also develop the index and see whatever we are able to improve over time. Yeah.
Last thing, and then I quit. Maybe in the future, I don't know, it could be interesting to merge the information of hoof health disease and feeding plan of the farmers. So we can see at which level of energy or protein the cows start to get stressed on hooves. But I don't know if this is any interest for Viking.
That's it could be something. Then that's mostly related to the metabolic related diseases like soul ulcer, soul hemorrhage, and double soul. They are quite related to the metabolic diseases and metabolic level of the cow. So there certainly might be some connections there that we could learn from.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Claudio. Other questions related to the presentation here? Or other questions related to hoof health in general in areas that we haven't touched here? No? Quite silent? Then, if no one start to raise their hand, as I can see, or start to raise the voice, I will say thank you very much for participating in this small webinar.